The story begins by saying that, after annihilating the Demon King in another world, he became a hero who brought peace to the entire continent. This hero said that he could finally return to his original world. But it was then that God spoke to him. God explained that, once again, he had chosen to save that world. But the hero complained that it was always God who decided for him. He felt trapped in a cycle, going from one world to another without being able to choose, and said that this time he really wanted to go home. God confirmed that he would send him back, and the hero commented that he had spent 20 years traveling through other dimensions, working non-stop, and asked if he didn't deserve a reward, like keeping his memories, for example. The goddess then appeared and said that while he was in that world, time in his original world was completely frozen. This meant that not even his lifespan was affected, so in practice, he hadn't lost anything. The hero accepted, said he was fine, and asked only to be sent back soon. The goddess asked him not to worry, assured him that he would be rewarded for the time and effort he had dedicated to her, and said that she would undoubtedly give him a fragment of divinity, a piece of her power. With this, his choices would be able to affect the flow of all dimensions, and he would have the power to change the world. The hero, still confused, asked if he could at least get a hint, but the goddess refused. He complained, saying that she was always complicated, and asked her to at least leave the memories of a single world. Ignoring his request, the goddess pushed him back, and he still tried to say that he hadn't finished, but he was teleported far away. The goddess, observing everything, said that she would continue to watch over his new journey in the world where it all began, where his fate would be decided. He was thrown back into his original dimension and woke up in his own bed with a bright light on his face. He felt strangely better. When he looked at his watch, he saw that it was 9 o'clock in the morning and realized that he was late for work. He ran out of the house, and the manager told him that he couldn't go on like that. Juyeon apologized, but felt exhausted, thinking that he wanted at least one day in his life that wasn't miserable. He wondered why his life always had to be so difficult. He knew that with that job, he would never be able to pay his rent, and he didn't want to stay there for long either. He thought that if he were at least an awakened person, maybe things would be different. It was then that a system window appeared in front of him, glowing, informing him that he possessed a unique trait called Master of Abilities. Juyeon was shocked. It was explained that the awakened, also called users, appeared after a fantasy-type virtual reality game became real 5 years ago. Since then, mysterious fields began to appear across the earth, places where monsters were born. Hunters and awakened ones entered these camps to defeat creatures, level up, gain power and rewards. That's why everyone wanted to become a user, even at the risk of facing the unknown. However, not all users were lucky. Some awakened with high-level traits from the start, others did not. Among them were the greatest in the world, and the first to reach level 70 was Muhammad A, who possessed a unique trait called Dragon Tongue. One day, Muhammad published a video on his channel. At first, people watched just out of curiosity, but the video went viral all over the world. No one could stop watching. In it, Muhammad appeared in front of various enemies and defeated them as if they were nothing. His magic seemed like something out of fiction. His power was so unreal that many doubted it. In the video, he summoned a veritable meteor shower. People wondered if he was really alone facing a level A field, and if something of that level was even possible, even at level 70. The massive meteors destroyed everything in their path. Even monsters capable of devastating cities couldn't resist. After all, how could a creature withstand the force of nature itself? At the end of the video, Muhammad revealed that it was an SS rank skill called Meteor Rain. He also said that from that week on, if anyone was able to show him something really spectacular, they would receive an artifact as a prize. The item was the Elemental Ring, the first and only SS rank artifact ever found. Any magic type user would kill for one of these. Some people commented that the whole thing was just a little show by Muhammad, but even so, the prize he offered was too big. That woman commented that he certainly wouldn't give an SS rank artifact to just anyone. It seemed absurd to imagine that he would actually give away something so rare. Besides, the item would only be of use to those who used magic, and the conditions would only be judged by Muhammad himself. She said that this was totally subjective. No one knew what he would find interesting. Deep down, she was filled with envy and confessed that she hated that bastard. It seemed too unfair. That's how Muhammad became famous all over the world. Of course, this aroused everyone's envy. His video quickly became the most watched on the planet. It seemed like a story straight out of another world, but what happened next was even more unbelievable. An unknown boy simply used the Meteor Rain skill with his bare hands, without a staff, without a scepter, and destroyed everything around him. Then he turned to Rama and commented that the skill was really powerful. The person who recorded the scene posted the video, which went viral even faster. The whole world was in shock. Many began to say that Muhammad had been surpassed by that boy. It is then explained that when a user awakens, they receive a unique trait. Each trait grants specific effects and different abilities as if it were a game class. Some of the most famous traits in the world are Dragon Tongue, Miracle, Regeneration, and Finisher. Those with Dragon Tongue become extremely powerful mages with the power of a dragon. Users with the miracle trait can heal and even bring someone back to life. Those with regeneration are able to recover from any injury, even regenerate lost limbs. Finishers, on the other hand, are warriors who can defeat any enemy with deadly precision. Meanwhile, Juyan was trying to understand what his trait called Master of Abilities meant. He rushed to his computer and started desperately researching. He wanted to find out what that trait did. He knew that the higher the class of the trait, the better the abilities it granted. Traits ranged from rank F to SS, with SS being the best. When he opened his status window, he saw that his trait was of rank X. He thought this was insane, as he had never heard of this rank before, but when he looked at his own attributes, he was disappointed. They were all at 1. He told himself that even people who aren't awakened have more than that. He was a complete failure. Even so, he now had access to a special ability. At the moment, it granted him 2 effects. The first was called Passive Income, which gave him 10 SP every 24 hours. In total, he had 100 SP accumulated. The second effect allowed him to use any skill, as long as he learned it. Juyan wondered if he only had these 2 effects, but soon realized another detail. He would need skill books to learn the techniques, which confused him. He also had no idea what SP was. He was beginning to doubt whether that line was any good or not. It was then that a system window appeared in front of him, informing him of the start of a tutorial mission. His task was simple: copy a skill using the skill called Copy Skills. The reward would be 20 SP in a video of the event. It was explained that the copy skill allowed him to duplicate any technique, but it would be deleted at the end of the day. However, he also had another skill, Restore Skills, which could recover any skill already copied, also for 1 day only, at a cost of 500 SP. Juyan found the whole thing strange. He had never heard of an awakened being given a tutorial mission. He wondered where he could safely copy a skill, since he had all his attributes at 1. If he went out onto the battlefield, he'd be asking to die. Still, he decided to check out a few skills out of curiosity. When he watched Muhammad's video again, something unexpected happened. The system displayed his skill, Meteor Rain, classified as SS rank. The description said that it summoned 20 meteors, plus an additional meteor for every 10 magic points. The requirement was to have 120 magic and a cost of 100 mana. The power of the skill increased by 50% if the user had a trait of rank S or higher. The tutorial event appeared before him. Inside that special map, he received 999 temporary additional status points. The system then asked him if he would like to copy the Meteor Rain skill. Juyan was surprised, wondering if it really worked through a video. That's when he recorded the whole thing and posted it on the internet. On the other side of the world, Muhammad had just watched the video. The secretary asked him if he really intended to give the ring to that boy. Muhammad replied that the chances of someone having a skill identical to his in their hands were almost 0. The secretary argued that there were many similar skills out there, but Muhammad insisted, saying that if it really was SS rank, it would be something exceptional. The secretary commented that there was no way of knowing. It could just be a variation with side effects. Even so, Muhammad claimed that the boy's trait was at least SS rank. He ordered her to hand over the ring, along with her card, but to keep her distance for the time being. He asked her to tell the boy that it was a gift from someone who wanted to be his friend one day. Meanwhile, Juyan was at work, realizing that the video was going insanely viral. He thought that even the system had done it for him, recording and posting it automatically. He thought that maybe he could get rich from it and become extremely powerful. As he rambled on, a little girl appeared at the checkout counter, calling out to him, but Juyan paid no attention, still in shock at everything that was happening. A man shouted for him, saying that his daughter was trying to say something, so Juyan replied that he would be right with them. Later, sighing with boredom, he thought that he probably wouldn't receive any SS rank items, but if by some miracle that happened, he could even make a shower of money and never have to work again. He thought he might even be able to surpass Muhammad. Until recently, that had seemed impossible, but now he really believed he had a chance. It was then that Juyan received a notification from Muhammad himself, saying that he would indeed receive the elemental ring. He was later completely shocked to discover that Muhammad's secretary had contacted him directly. He had indeed received the ring, escorted to the place to receive it personally. Even so, he was still dumbfounded. When he got home, he was still stunned, wondering if the ring was real. The system confirmed it was the SS rank elemental ring. The ring's effects were impressive. It granted 30 more magic points, 500 more mana, 10% more mana regeneration, 20% more power to skills, reduced the cost of mana by 10%, recovered 2% of mana for each creature defeated, and even gave 10 more magic if the user had a SS rank or higher trait. Juyan thought it was completely insane. He shouldn't just lie there, he had to act. He needed to find a camp immediately, but when he looked at his status window, he saw that they were all still set to 1. That was impossible. Before going to any camp, he needed armor, but for that, he needed money. He thought that maybe the views of the video would give him the money he needed, but then he remembered that he hadn't yet verified his channel for monetization. mission. He wasn't ready to reveal his identity to the world. He began to wonder if there was another way. It was then that he saw a very interesting post. He discovered that healing skills were a real goldmine. If someone became an emergency healer within a camp, they could make a lot of money. Such users were in demand all the time. Juyan concluded that this could be perfect for him, so he went to a park just to get people's attention. But apparently no one approached him. No one tried to make contact. Juyan commented that next time he would take something to pass the time. It was at that moment that an awakened man appeared carrying another person who was bleeding in his arms. Juyan was there, fiddling with her cell phone, when the awakened person approached in an intimidating manner. Juyan even felt afraid, and the man just stared at him until he told him to use the skill right away. Juyan was annoyed, finding the man rude, and thought that even if you're in a hurry, you don't talk like that to someone you've just met. It reminded him of his old job at the convenience store, where he dealt with inconvenient people all the time. He almost replied in kind, but before he did, the hunter offered 20 million in advance. Juyan accepted on the spot and ordered the woman to lie down so that he could heal her. But when the time came to act, he felt disgusted. The hunter had put the arm back in place and ordered Juyan to heal it. It was like something out of a movie, but he decided to try anyway. He used his C-rank recovery light healing skill and began his work as a healer. Later, he was at home relaxing, relieved that he had managed to complete the job. 2 more customers showed up later, and if he hadn't had the ring with mana regeneration, he would have been in serious trouble. He wondered what had happened to those people and what kind of field it was. But one thing was certain, he had found the best job possible. He was about to get rich. Now that he had money, he began to think about what he should do. Invest in real estate, get into cryptocurrencies, or maybe just enjoy it for the time being. But he remembered that he still needed SP to increase his power. The system then informed him that the next tutorial mission was to increase his subtraction related to passive income. Passive income was one of the main ways for a skill user to get SP. So increasing this income should be his priority in order to grow. The reward for the mission would be another 100 SP and a new subtraction from the main skill. Juyan understood that his trait would evolve in level as he gained new subtractions. To improve his passive income, he needed 100 SP, and since he earned 10 a day, all he had to do was wait another 3 days to complete this mission. He saw it as a free mission, since what he spent, he would earn back, in addition to the new subtraction. He decided that he needed to complete this task. While he was waiting, there was a knock on the door, and it was room service. Juyan was glad it had finally arrived. He deserved to enjoy the money. Later, he was lying on the sofa watching TV and eating a feast. Juyan, while watching various S-rank skills on television, concluded that copying them like that was pointless, as they would disappear at midnight. To use them effectively, he would need a video that he could access whenever he wanted. He mentally thanked Muhammad for revealing his ability publicly. He thought he had been a true angel in his life, but he wondered if he would be able to acquire skills permanently as he progressed through the ranks. So he started organizing a playlist of skills that he could copy in the future. He found one for strengthening the body that he found interesting, and another for teleportation magic, which he also added to the list. After eating all he could, Juyan was practically pregnant with food. He commented to himself that he had even registered with the Users Association as a healer, as it was an easy way to earn a lot of money. With his healing skills, buff and magic, he thought that the only thing missing in his life was a woman. The next day, to his surprise, a woman did indeed appear. It was the very one he had helped by putting his arm back in place, and she was there to thank him personally. Juyan was completely shocked when he saw her, and she asked him if he didn't remember her. He replied that of course he did, but he thought she was too pretty to have any kind of connection with him. She explained that a few days ago she had been taken to him by her own brother, who had brought her for treatment. It was then that Juyan realized that they weren't boyfriend and girlfriend, as she had thought, but brother and sister. She thanked him sincerely, saying that without him she would probably have died. She asked if he was part of a group, and Juyan said no. Then she wanted to know if he was in any guilds, and again, he said no. She got excited, saying that this was perfect, as her group needed a temporary healer at the moment. Juyan thought that sooner or later, he would have to go to the countryside himself, so this seemed like a good opportunity. She suggested that if he had some free time, they could go out for tea or coffee and have a chat, and also asked for his number to save the contact. Juyan agreed excitedly, but before they could continue, they heard a shout. It was another person approaching with someone wounded in their arms. Unwilling to stop talking to the woman, Juyan went over to the wounded man, healed him quickly, and received payment. When he returned, he apologized, saying that his level was too low to join a group. But she explained that her group had several S-rank members, and that she herself was an S-rank mage, so she could carry him easily. Even so, Juyan, with a heavy heart, collected his things and left. He had just realized that an S-ranked person had almost been killed in that camp, and even though he wanted to stay by that woman's side, he wasn't willing to die for anyone. He ran out, money falling everywhere, and decided that he would console himself later. On another night of luxury, he thought the day had finally come. When the clock struck midnight, he earned another 10 SP, making it 100, and increased the level of his passive income skill. Now he could earn between 10 and 50 SP every 24 hours. Ju-Yan was amazed, as the limit he could earn had been multiplied by 5. He went to check the mission reward, and, as expected, earned another 100 SP, as well as unlocking another subtract. The new subtraction was level 1 imbuement, which meant that any copied skill gained an additional trait, even if it was of rank F. Ju-Yan understood that a skill's trait is what defines a user's style, so now he wouldn't just copy the skill, but also the style of the person using it. This made sense, since many people in the world had the same skills because they learned them from books. But the power of the skill varied from person to person because of the unique trait. The same skill in the hands of the right person could become much more powerful. That was the main weakness of someone like him, a master of copying skills. Without a unique trait, the copied skills would be weaker than the originals, with the exception of the meteor magic he used in the tutorial map. However, now with the new imbuement subtraction, he could copy not only the skill, but also its trait. This was really powerful, although the part about the trait being random still worried him. The healing light he currently possessed was capable of restoring 15% of life, putting limbs back in place and healing any status effect up to rank A. It required 25 points of magic and 350 mana. It required 25 points of magic and 350 mana. The unique feature of this ability was that it increased magical power by 10%. Ju-Yan concluded that he would have to test it for himself to see if the new subtraction was really working. It was time to stop selling cures around. Then another tutorial mission appeared in the system. Ju-Yan had to hunt monsters using a copied skill. This way he could level up, copy more skills, and unlock new content for his trait. To do this, he would have to defeat a total of 20 monsters. The reward would be 200 SP plus an unlocked subtrace. Ju-Yan commented that it felt like someone was watching him in real time, creating these missions as he acted, and even the system itself seemed to get nervous when he said this. Even so, he decided that to really hunt, he needed a strong skill, so he considered copying a fireball, even if he didn't expect much, since the copied trait would come randomly. He decided to do it just for the experience and copied the Hankier's fireball skill, a spell that summoned a flaming sphere that could be thrown up to 20 meters, requiring 10 magic points and 70 mana. From this copy, Ju-Yan also received a unique subtraction called F-rank ignition, which made any fire skill inflict F-rank burns for 60 seconds. This only increased his suspicion that there really was someone manipulating the system behind the scenes. Later, Ju-Yan went to the area near the sheep ranch field. He wondered if that was the gateway between the hunting camp and the real world. As he had taken all his equipment and the little money he had left, he thought he would be fine, so he filled himself with motivation and went for it. Sometime later, comments began to emerge about him. They called Ju-Yan a lunatic for wiping out all the monsters on the ranch. They said he looked like a psychopath while killing the monsters and that they had never seen anyone act like that. He even received invitations from guilds after that. Ju-Yan said that it wasn't exactly what he had expected, but he didn't find it that surprising either, especially since he had already attracted the attention of an S-ranked woman, even if he had turned her down in the end and left crying. He remembered the events during the hunt and wondered if he had really laughed during the whole thing. The truth was that, yes, he had laughed while burning all those monster bowls with fireballs. Watching the video now, he realized that he really did look like a psychopath, just like they said. Joyoung, happy with his performance, was thrilled to defeat the monsters with ease. He completed the mission, received the 200 SP, and unlocked another subtraction from the copying skill. The new subtraction was Efficiency Level 1, which reduced the mana cost of copied skills by 10%. He realized that he was almost out of mana, but with this new subtraction, he could continue hunting without too much worry. Soon after, he saw a post about a raid, a monstrous boss that really caught his attention. But he noticed that he needed better equipment, because that made all the difference. Fortunately, he could keep conjuring fireballs over and over again. Then, overcome with emotion, he knelt down and began to pray. He was paying his respects to his savior, the god Muhammad, because it was thanks to him that he was where he was. The video he was watching showed exactly what had happened a few days ago. A raid with a strange boss, a bear with horns. That had been another tutorial mission, which asked him to hunt down a boss monster. The reward was 500 SP, and realizing this, Ju-Yan understood that he needed to take the creature down. With a single huge fireball on the boss's chest, he knocked him down in front of everyone. The impact was so great that people were shocked by the power he displayed. After that, he continued to throw several fireballs, preventing the monster from even getting up or reacting. The beast was practically barbecued. The group wondered if he had really done it alone. However, the boss suddenly stood up. He used a powerful roar that reduced the status of everyone in the area. That marked the beginning of the second phase of the fight. The monster had entered rage mode. The boss's roar made all the warriors weaker, and they were finding it difficult even to move. It was at this point that the system appeared in front of Juyan, informing him that he had received an additional mission from the tutorial. He should try to copy the boss's special ability. If he succeeded, he would gain another 200 SP and another subtraction from his copying skill. The skill in question was the Dark Bear's Roar. It worked when the user had less than 50% life for 60 seconds. In this state, the roar was unleashed, and all creatures within a radius of 30 meters lost 3 points in all attributes. If the targets were of a lower level, they would lose an additional 2 points. Juyan used his copy skill and successfully duplicated the Dark Bear's Roar. In addition, he received a subtraction called Oblivion of rank F, which allowed him to randomly delete a subtraction from any skill. He wondered if he could use the roar freely since it didn't seem to consume any mana. While everyone was still being brutally hit by the bear, Juyan activated the roar. However, it hit the surrounding allies again, causing them to lose another 3 points in all stats. While the rest of the group could barely move, Juyan had all his attributes increased by 9 points, including strength, agility, endurance, and magic. The bear, now weakened, was practically harmless. With just a flick of his finger, Juyan conjured up a fireball and completely annihilated the boss. Everyone panicked, not believing that he had defeated the monster single-handedly. He completed the main mission of the tutorial as well as the bonus mission, accumulating 700 SP and unlocking another subtract. He found the whole thing electrifying. The Dark Bear's body fell completely charred, and the people around him shouted that he was an unbelievable hero. They were in shock, calling his name. Juyan, observing everything, thought that the scene looked strangely familiar, as if he had seen something like it before. Everyone on the field absorbed the Dark Bear's soul. Juyan permanently gained another strength point. He commented that it was the first time he'd seen the famous soul of a boss. The system explained that a field boss usually had a higher level than the field itself, and that beginners could usually only defeat them with the help of experienced users. If this happened, the contribution system prevented the beginner from earning full rewards, and the boss's body disappeared without leaving any items. But if everyone present helped to kill the boss, the soul was absorbed by everyone, and the body didn't disappear. This meant that the boss dropped many items, ranging from hundreds to thousands. It was possible to get rare materials, equipment, and even high-level weapons. Juyan was pleased to realize that his strength had finally risen to 2 points, now permanently. He understood that every time you absorbed the soul of a boss, you gained a permanent increase in a random status. Soon afterwards, some people approached the group's wizard, congratulating him on the success of the mission and saying that it was all possible thanks to him, the famous psychopath. Juyan thought that perhaps it was time to change that nickname. One warrior commented that he was about to be hit when the bear went into rage mode, but that the damage had been completely nullified thanks to the mage. They opened the status window of the item involved, but noticed that it wasn't so good for a mage. It only gave 3 points of strength, and when it fell below 30% life, it activated the berserk state, as well as granting 2 more points in all attributes. Even so, they concluded that it wasn't that advantageous for the role of a wizard. Juyan thought that having 30% of his life left was practically having one foot in the grave. Meanwhile, the warrior commented that the other items would be handed over to the Users Association. But at that moment, a person appeared saying that he wanted to buy everything. He offered 90% of the market value for the items, and questions soon arose about who this guy was and who he thought he was to talk like that. Someone explained that people like him are called item hunters, buyers who specialize in acquiring loot from bosses, and that depending on the amount, the offer might even be worth it. Juyan realized that there really were all kinds of people in this world and wondered who these guys were. But when he saw the money in front of him, he thought he didn't care about that at all and decided to sell the items. Later, he was already selling cures again and thought that nothing made sense. He had gotten 10 million, but the most basic leather armor cost 63 million rankier. When he ran out of the store crying, the saleswoman even wished him good luck in getting the money together. Juyan thought that if he still had the Dark Bear's Roar with the Oblivion, he could focus fully on hunting. It was then that he opened the system window and discovered that he had obtained a new subtrace called Boss Collector. This subtrace allowed him to collect special abilities from the monsters whose souls he had absorbed and copy them at any time. This meant that he could recover the bear's roar, but it would still be necessary to leave the boss with less than 50% life to activate the ability. At least he could still have some fun with the fireball. He stretched, looked around, and saw that there were no customers. So he opened the system again and decided to spend some of his points. He realized that he was on level level 8 and had 7 points available. He thought honestly about his dreams and that he would like to be a warrior, an assassin, or a powerful swordsman. But in that world, there were no extra lives, so he preferred to play it safe and put all his points into magic. After that, he spent 500 SP to improve his passive income again. He could now keep 2 copies of skills active per day. If he tried to copy a third, the first would be overwritten. This surprised Juyan, as it was an extremely powerful feature. Soon afterwards, the system informed him that he had unlocked a new function: daily missions to earn additional SP. The first level 1 daily mission consisted of copying a skill twice. Without wasting any time, he copied the healing skill he already had. This gave him a unique trait that reduced the skill's mana cost by 5%. He wondered if by copying the same skill again, he could get another different trait, i.e., 2 different versions of the same skill. When he copied it again, the system asked him if he wanted to overwrite the previous one. He accepted. A huge system window appeared in front of him, as if he had just won the lottery. Later, in addition to selling healing, Juyan also started selling XP buffs. When everything was ready, he gathered the people around and made his announcement. The crowd was very impressed, slowly moving closer, as they wondered if that XP buff really existed. Juyan thought it wasn't time to get nervous. He didn't have all the time in the world. He wanted to reach his goal of raising 60 million as soon as possible. Then a hooded woman approached him. She said she hadn't seen him for a while and asked if he was still interested in hunting with her group. It was the same girl he had helped by putting his arm back in place. Her presence and her aura of beauty left Juyan completely unmoved. He replied that he was working at the moment, but she said that she understood and that she and her brother would like to receive the buff too. Her brother commented that something similar had happened recently. They received the healing and the 5% additional experience buff. The mage, whose name was Kim Hyeji, handed over her S-rank card and asked them to contact her anytime. She said that they really needed a powerful healer like him in the group. Kim commented that the buff was a good one and that it lasted 5 hours. She then advertised it to the others, which attracted several people offering money. Juyan thought Kim Hyeji was the best. He organized the situation by asking everyone to line up and warn them that he didn't accept cards. Later, Kim Hyeji was with her brother, who asked her why she kept approaching that newcomer who didn't even have any equipment. Kim explained that she had said before that in their group, she caused a lot of damage, and her brother was the tank who could handle everything on the front line. What was missing was a powerful healer. Now, in addition to healing, he also offered an XP buff, so his trait was certainly quite unique. Even so, her brother said that he was still just a beginner. Kim Hyeji replied that this was precisely why he could be more useful. If they realized his potential before the others, they could secure an advantage. When R entered the field, she used the firestorm and completely incinerated all the creatures in front of her. She commented that this guy could easily become one of the biggest players one day. Later, Juyan came out of the store with his new Lecta leather armor, which gave an extra point of defense and 2 more to all stats. He thought it was a good passive. He then used his SP points to further increase his passive income. He now earned 200 SP a day and realized that he could accumulate SP just by sitting around. However, for the next imbuement, he would need 2,000 SP. To increase the level of the daily mission, he would need 3,000. To raise the level of the skill copy, he would need 4,000. In total, if he didn't do any missions, it would take him 49 days. So he decided to stop thinking and start acting. It was time to go to a boss camp, as he needed to get more points. He almost forgot that his face was already a little known as a healer, so he decided to wear glasses as a disguise. Later in that field, he was walking through a mangrove swamp and wondered why there was so much mud there. It was an F-rank camp where everyone was struggling to advance because of the terrain. He realized that melee fighters and tanks could barely get in. He thought that the sheep ranch was much easier, quicker, and cleaner. If only he could access a stronger field, he wouldn't have to go through the trouble of collecting boss souls. It was explained that users below level 19 can only enter F-rank fields and can only absorb up to 5 boss souls, which was why he was there. He thought he just wanted to go home. Suddenly, he saw a lively group next door and wondered if he was there just to see the others happy while he was left alone. They began to recognize him as Juyan, and he realized that he had accidentally changed his nickname to his real name. He understood that if that guy was there talking to him, it meant that they had taken his space too. So he wasn't the only loner out there. He thought he should be more cautious when recruiting people. Soon afterwards, the womanizing leader of the group announced that they would be briefing. Juyan realized that it wasn't a dating group, but a raid against a boss. Blondie explained that many already knew the strategy, but he would repeat it. The boss of Gororim Bay day was the Great Mangrove Crab. He got faster with every debuff he received, so no one could take a single debuff. Even high debuffs, like bleeding, counted. That's why you had to kill him without anyone getting hurt. If the debuffs accumulated, he would become very powerful and gain a special ability. Juyeon was interested in this ability. The blonde man boasted that he had already killed the Great Mangrove Crab several times and that there was nothing to worry about. Juyeon thought that if this ability to gain buffs when receiving debuffs was special and he could copy it, he would be practically immune to debuffs. He had gone there looking for silver, but it seemed he had found gold. Later, they were facing toothy creatures that looked dangerous because of their name, but were actually just harmless little shells. Everyone began to crush the creatures without any difficulty. Juyeon found this strange and thought that they were just hunting monsters that served as ingredients for a soup. Meanwhile, Blondie assured everyone that he would protect them. But just then, large tentacles appeared out of the mangrove swamp. At the same moment, he didn't think twice before retreating and running back. Juyeon was surprised and wondered if he hadn't said he would protect everyone. However, the archers in the rear reacted quickly, launching a shower of arrows that eliminated the tentacles, which actually looked more like giant centipedes. Daeon was impressed and commented to himself that this group was really good. Even though they were only F rank, everyone there showed good skills. But he kept wondering when the main attraction would finally appear. As soon as he had this thought, Huge Claw appeared, picking up the corpses of the monsters. At that moment, Blondie announced that the boss raid had officially begun. It was then that the large mangrove crab appeared in front of them. Juyeon was less impressed by the creature itself and more surprised by the system notification that appeared before him. It was a rare A-rank skill called Change Resistance. This ability caused the user's resistance to change as they received buffs or debuffs. Whenever they were under the effect of one of these, all their statuses increased by 1 point, and this increase became exponential with every 5 effects accumulated. Juyeon was in shock, thinking it was like winning the lottery. Meanwhile, the giant crab ran after the group, whirling around and hitting everything in its path with force. He realized that the skill had no recharge time or usage limitation, which meant that it was a passive skill that was always active. What's more, it got stronger and stronger as the effects accumulated, making it extremely powerful. Suddenly, he noticed that the group's main tank was right next to him and asked them to use as many physical attacks as possible. Juyeon thought quickly and realized the problem. If they continued using intense physical attacks, they could cause bleeding, which is a debuff, which would make the boss even stronger. All the archers fired their arrows at the big crab, but Juyeon was confused. Were they going to keep shooting these arrows without much effect? Maybe that was why the leader had brought so many archers. But it still wasn't working like it should. How were they going to defeat that monster without even being able to scratch its shell? It was then that Blondie said that now was his time to shine. He asked Hyoju for a buff, who responded with a spell straight from his heart. Juyeon thought that roleplay was on another level, but honestly, he wasn't that interested in any of it. The only answer he really wanted was how to kill that giant crab once and for all. So he was completely shocked to see the buff Hyoju was using. It was a skill called Radiant Authority, which applied 4 random buffs to the target, with 1 more for every 50 points of magic. If the person had a specific trait for buffs, the duration doubled, and with 150 magic or more, only high-level buffs would be applied. Juyeon wondered if there was an SS rank buff in there. It reminded him of the time he was in the store buying his armor. The clerk had asked him if he recorded videos or made lives. He was confused, trying to understand how she recognized him, but answered by saying no. She insisted, commenting that posting videos on UserTube was a great area for beginners and even recommended a product aimed at this audience. According to her, the item had state-of-the-art stabilization, perfect for capturing vivid and dynamic battle footage. She also said that if he got into a huge fight and died, he could at least leave the epic videos as a memento for his family at the funeral. He didn't know what to say, but now it made sense. That was why he was wearing the glasses. He was recording the whole battle, and it was really useful because he could record the Radiant Authority skill to copy it later. If he combined this with Change Stamina, which increased statuses when receiving buffs or debuffs, he would have a gigantic combo. Juyeon wondered why such a powerful buffer as Hyoju was there in an F-rank field. Blondie then took the lead and said it was now his turn. He asked Riju for a buff, who responded with a spell cast directly from the heart. Juyeon, with a single finger, launched a fireball that burned everything in its path. As soon as it came into contact with the large crab, the magic exploded. That was the explosion skill, which detonates any flame within a radius of 20 meters. It required 25 magic and 250 mana. As he had the unique chain explosion trait, if he hit the same target with 3 or more explosions, the enemy would take 10% more damage. The smell that spread across the field made the group wonder if it was a recipe for fried crab. And it was, because the poor thing was practically roasted, ready to be served. Despite everything, Blondie was in shock, but but he still ran towards the monster, as if it still posed a danger. After all, he was just beating up a corpse while looting the items. All the members of the group began to receive the giant crab's soul, gaining an extra point in magic. Many found the situation completely embarrassing. Ju Yan, on the other hand, managed to copy the skill Change Resistance, which was added to his list of boss skills. He thought he'd finally got everything he wanted. Now he just needed to make it work together with the Radiant Authority. It was time to go home, but he was surrounded by the group's people who thanked him for everything. Thanks to him, the fight was very easy. Everyone said he carried the team. They asked what his unique trait was, and Blondie asked for calm, saying that they still needed to divide up the items. Ju Yan thought that at least Hyoju would be on his side, but she said that since he had done most of the work, he should take more. He turned to her and thought, "Ryo, not you too?" While everyone was arguing, they ended up following along with Ju Yan. Blondie stayed behind, but someone was watching from afar. This observer commented that no rare items had fallen from the crab, so he radioed that they were heading for the next boss point and left the place. Meanwhile, Hyoju also seemed to be observing something. The next day, Ju Yan was on a mission. He killed several monsters and received a 300 reward for completing his daily task. He thought how difficult it was to reach a simple level 3. Even so, he recognized that that combo between Change Resistance and Radiant Authority was extremely powerful. The problem was that he was still at level 2, so he didn't have many copy attempts available. His status was increasing, but he realized that he couldn't use any other skills. The answer was simple. He needed to reach level 3. But to do that, he needed 4,000 SP. Ju Yan started throwing tantrums, complaining that he needed SP and would have to keep farming daily quests. He even wondered if there wasn't a good ADM who could give him a special mission. He said he wasn't expecting anything to happen, but then finally the system responded. A main tutorial mission appeared. If he completed this mission, he would receive 4,000 SP and unlock his 4th subtrace. Ju Yan wondered what kind of task this was. It was at that moment that everyone around looked up at the sky. Something was completely obstructing the view up there. A gigantic structure appeared right above them. It was a special F-rank field called Kainel's Floating Island. His main mission was to conquer this field. The reward was huge, 10,000 SP, a subtract upgrade ticket, and a random skill from the skill master. It was explained that because it was a special field, there were special monsters too, and the longer this field remained uncleared, the more creatures began to invade the real world. In order to protect the Earth and humanity, special fields had to be conquered. It wasn't long before this was in the news. It was reported that a large special F-rank field had appeared over Seoul and Gyeonggi province. People believed that the pillars of light coming out of the island were portals leading there. The Users Association activated emergency measures and all flights were canceled. One of the users complained that the association should soon release access to the island. It was also reported that other special camps had appeared in various parts of the world. The most recent was in Japan. Unlike the floating island in Korea, the Japanese camp was not an island. Each country seemed to have its own special kind of camp. Japan's field was B rank, and at that moment, 70 monsters were crossing Tokyo. People began to wonder if level 70 wasn't basically equivalent to rank S. The entry level of that field ranged from 41 to 70. A spokesman for the Users Association appeared on national television to explain that, according to the analysis made from other countries, special camps were not beneficial at all. He assured them that they were working to allow access as soon as possible, with the full support of the government. Once they had all the necessary information, they planned to give special rewards to users who participated. Everyone should prepare to conquer the floating island of Kainel. Meanwhile, Ju Yan, standing in front of the user store, commented that the whole place was a mess. Later, he wondered if he couldn't get his SP a bit earlier. This was because his passive income, now at level 3, provided 200 SP a day. To move up to the next level, he would need 5,000. The evolution of trade imbuement cost 2,000. Ju Yan did the math and realized that if he completed the main mission, he would receive a total of 14,000 SP. That would be enough to evolve everything in one go. To improve his efficiency, he needed 800 SP. To unlock the ability to make more copies a day, he needed 4,000. The daily task to level up cost another 3,000. He concluded that by clearing the special field, he would have enough SP to invest in everything. That was what he needed to do. No matter what happened, he had to conquer that place. In the store, he met the saleswoman who liked him again. He asked her if those were the items that cost 70 million. She showed him 2 cursed items, a mana ring that gave an extra 100 mana but reduced his strength by 1 point, and a bracelet that increased his mana by 100 but reduced his agility by 1 point. Juyeon thought that with these additional 400 mana, her total mana would rise to 1510. Even with the drop in physical stats, it would be good to stay focused on magic for the time being. Juyeon began to wonder how much it would cost to get better armor than he was currently wearing. Curious, he asked the saleswoman how much a complete set of armor from rank D to C would cost. She then asked him if he wanted to buy it, but Juyeon quickly left the store, saying that he only wanted the accessories. He thought that was the price of a house. Later, he and the other hunters were near the portal that led to the floating island of Kainal. Juyeon reflected that he wanted to replace those glasses and use the money he had left to upgrade his body camera. He thought that perhaps he should have bought this from the start, instead of spending it on glasses. Before he left, he decided to take a look at the community reviews. As he read the news about Kainal's floating island, he concluded that, judging by people's reactions, this special field looked more like a D rank than an F rank. Nevertheless, he headed towards the portal, wondering what could be so bad there. As soon as he stepped through, he was teleported straight to the island. High up, the place was beautiful, and for a moment it seemed safe. No monsters were attacking him, and he even thought that maybe the countryside really wasn't so bad. Suddenly, he heard a scream. A user was being carried by a giant hawk. The creature grabbed the man and threw him off the island, straight into the void. Juyeon realized it was time to get ready to fight. His only hope at that moment was the fireball. He thought that if one of those eagles got close, he'd be barbecued. But to his surprise, they simply ignored him and headed straight for a knight. Those people were Kim Hyeji and his brother. He blocked all the eagle's attacks firmly, while Kim Hyeji launched a firestorm, incinerating all the creatures in the air. Juyeon was impressed. He knew she was powerful, but not that powerful. Kim Hyeji commented that it wasn't as difficult as she thought, but her brother warned her never to let her guard down. Juyeon looked at his own situation and thought that he only had the fireball copied. He began to wonder if it was worth trying to copy the firestorm as well. But before he could make any decisions, a slime began to approach. Kim Hyeji commented that honestly, if they'd had a healer last time, she wouldn't have been injured so badly. She said that if she could recruit that healer she had met, hunting would be much easier. When she looked over, she saw that he was standing there with the slime stuck to his leg. The slime wasn't attacking him, it was just sticking to him. Juyeon realized that everyone was looking directly at him. Kim Hyeji commented that it was good that they had found Juyeon there and said that he looked a bit busy. Juyeon could only think that this was a lot of trouble. Kim Hyeji's brother removed the slime that was stuck to his leg, making the slime visibly sad. Even so, Juyeon was more concerned about his own armor, which was very expensive. Kim Hyeji's brother recognized Juyeon as the park's healer and figured that she certainly wouldn't want someone like that in the group, but it only took seeing her little smile to realize that she was interested in having him around. Kim Hyeji said that it was quite a coincidence that they had found Juyeon there, and said that it was fate showing them that they should unite. Juyeon thought he just wanted to hunt that day and asked them to let go of his arm. Kim Hyeji, however, replied that there was no way. She was going to carry him herself that day. Juyeon realized that she had no other choice and decided to use her last copy of healing skill. He agreed to go with the group, but first he said he needed to go to the toilet. Some were surprised. After all, he couldn't just say he was going to watch a YouTube video to copy a skill. He himself recognized that it was a bad way to start his reputation with the group. Later, they were facing those eagles carrying stones to throw directly at Kim Hyeji's brother's shield. Juyeon realized that the eagles understood that if they got close, they would be burned. So they were using their wits to attack from a distance. At the same moment, rhino-shaped monsters also appeared and attacked together. Just as Juyeon was getting ready to act, Kim Hyeji stepped in front of him. She blocked the way with a wall of fire and eliminated all the creatures with a flaming rain and a powerful spear of fire. As soon as she had finished, she declared that everything was settled. Juyeon was impressed. He thought that against her and her brother, the monsters didn't stand a chance. He commented that it was incredible how Kim Hyeji, being an S-rank user, had so many skills. He then reflected that if in the future he were to be classified as X-rank, how many skills would he have at his disposal? Kim Hyeji explained that most of her skills were acquired through skill books, and that it was no big deal. Juyeon then thought that in the end, it was all about money. It was then that another monster appeared, a two-headed crocodile. Juyeon, still saddened to realize that everything depended on resources, reacted with a powerful fireball, eliminating the creature instantly. Kim Hyeji, surprised, wondered what it was, since normally a fireball would be quite small. Kim Hyeji was surprised to see the size of the fireball used by Juyeon, and asked why it was so smiled big. She then asked him to be honest with her. She wanted to know if his magic status was higher than hers and asked him directly if he was really a healer. Juyan replied that that was normal, but inside he was frustrated, thinking that that damn random trait he'd gained had just screwed everything up. The trait in question was Overload, an F-rank trait that doubled the mana consumption of skills, but dealt 20% more damage. He thought that, in the end, it wasn't worth it because of the absurd mana cost. Even so, he tried to maintain his posture and said that healers also needed to defend themselves. Kim Hyeji, still suspicious, asked how much mana he had. Juyan replied that he had a reasonable amount, but internally recognized that, with his 100 points, he actually had quite a reserve of mana. He realized that he needed to act more cautiously from now on. At the moment, he was still only seen as a healer, and as there were other users around, a carelessness could attract envious glances to the group. Meanwhile, the poor slimes were being decimated by the other hunters. They were too weak to face the real monsters, but they were being hunted anyway, just because they were easy. Kim Hyeji's group didn't show much pride or honor in it either. While some hunters faced real threats, they continued to eliminate the slimes, which didn't harm anyone. Then, suddenly, the system announced that the total number of creatures killed on the floating island had reached the condition required to summon the boss. The master of the floating tower finally appeared, and soon everyone realized that something much bigger was about to happen. An angel appeared in the sky. It was an imposing creature that, as soon as it appeared, awakened its first skill, the Celestial Sword, an S-rank spell. This ability summoned a celestial sword for every creature killed on the island. The damage increased by 1% for each sword, and if the user had the unique trait of the floating island, the number of swords doubled and also applied the judgment effect. Juyan wondered if it was an area ability, and Kim Hyeji's brother had to quickly position himself to defend the group with his shield. Even so, many people were hit all over the island, including him, who narrowly missed something worse. He thought he had managed to block everything, but ended up with a debuff that reduced his HP, attack power, and defense. He said the negative condition would last 10 minutes. Juyan, as a healer, did his job and began to recover the wounded. It was then that he realized who the boss was. Kainel, the master of the floating tower, was level 59. Juyan then suggested that the group retreat, as he had received a secondary B-rank mission that required him to defeat Kainel. If they managed to eliminate the special field, they would gain 5,000 SP in one of the boss's abilities. Later at home, Juyan went online to analyze what had happened on the floating island. He played a video that had been posted about the event. In the video, Kainel appeared again, summoning more celestial swords and applying debuffs that prevented the hunters from fighting. Even the slimes, once harmless, became monstrous and started destroying everything around them. Juyan concluded that Kainel was so powerful that he could even buffalo the monsters on the island, turning them into real threats. At that moment, running away really was the best decision. If it were a game, there would be extra lives to try again. But in real life, with that kind of debuff, it was almost impossible to face him head on. It was then that he received a message that startled him for a moment. It was actually Kim Hyeji calling him. She wanted to know if he had returned to the floating island since that day. He replied that he hadn't yet. He was considering returning, but hadn't yet discovered the boss's attack pattern. Now the situation was looking more and more like a disaster. The monsters were much stronger and would soon be leaving the island. If nothing was done, they would soon be attacking the city of Seoul directly. Kim Hyeji explained that the time had come for the attack. She told him that a gigantic raid was being organized to defeat Kainel and asked if Juyan wanted to take part. He was impressed by the proposal. A few days later, in C1's main park, several users were gathered for this raid. Many were of high rank, and those of lower rank were amazed. They were such powerful people that a D-rank field was just a warm-up for them. Even Juyan felt insignificant in that place and wondered why he had gone. He even changed out of his old magician's clothes, thinking he looked more presentable now. As he was thinking, Kim Hyeji came up and spoke to him. Juyan thought she had finally found someone familiar. She commented the minimum requirement to take part in that raid was B rank or higher, so he wondered if an F rank like him could be there. He thought that, in order to hide his true identity, he had registered with the association as an F rank healer. Kim Hyeji, suspicious, asked if he was really F rank using C rank skills. Annoyed, she exclaimed that his skills alone were enough to fulfill his role as a healer. Just then, the raid leader appeared. He was very impressed by the number of people gathered. The leader was Lee Hai-sung, an SS rank warrior from the 1st Daihan Guild. Lee Hai-sung explained that before the briefing to defeat Kainel, the most important thing was to check each member's skills. He said that they would start with a warm-up. Kim Hyeji thought it was great and said he would try to make up for his mistakes last time. Juyan watched it all and thought how impressive that guy was. During the warm-up on a D-ranked field, Lee Hae-sung defeated all the monsters with ease, as if they were insignificant. Ju-yeon was very impressed by that power. He even thought he wanted to be a swordsman, but he knew he couldn't. His status was too bad for that. In fact, they were the worst in the world. He was only managing to survive so far because of the elemental ring Muhammad had given him. Using magic was still his safest option. Even so, he thought that holding a sword sounded really cool and somehow even familiar to him. However, as a healer, he decided that he would do his job and help others. He also thought that hand-to-hand combat was too dangerous, until a voice spoke to him asking him if he really thought so. Meanwhile, as Lee Hae-sung continued to fight the monsters, a powerful energy began to spread across the field. It was something strange. Then an older version of himself spoke to him, saying that it would be a waste not to use his abilities. Ju-yeon then analyzed Lee Hae-sung's ability, Blood Phrenesis. This ability allowed him to absorb the statuses of all the intoxicated monsters he killed. The effect lasted for 5 minutes after the fight, and if there was a combat trait of rank S or higher, he gained extra statuses for every 10 kills. If his strength was 50 or more, his magic increased by 10% of his strength. If stamina was greater than 50, agility increased by 10% of stamina. Ju-yeon thought that he had finally found a skill that could allow him to fight like a swordsman. Later, after Lee Hae-sung had defeated many lizard monsters, the boss finally appeared. He was the king of the poisonous lizard men. People began to wonder if it was really just a warm-up, but Lee Hae-sung showed no fear. He used his S-rank Limit Breaker skill, which increased power in a class for 60 seconds. If you had a combat trait of rank S or higher, all statuses increased by 5. The mana cost was 580 and required 20 magic points. He advanced against the Lizard King and defeated it with just one blow to the chest. The monster's soul was absorbed by everyone there, increasing each team member's stamina by 1 point. Ju-yeon, by absorbing this soul, added the B-rank Catalyst to his list of boss abilities. Kim Hyeji's brother asked if the raid was over. Kim Hyeji replied that she could have defeated that monster herself, but her brother retorted by saying that she had almost died too. At this point, Ju-yeon asked if it was possible to receive rewards, even without having directly helped in the hunt. Kim Hyeji explained that normally you don't get rewards if you don't contribute, but as Ju-yeon had healed several people and applied buffs during the raid, that certainly counted as a valid contribution. Before that, Ju-yeon used to wonder how healers managed to level up, but now he realized that it was practically free experience. Meanwhile, Lee Hae-sung, covered in lizard blood, put away his sword and announced that he was going to hand out the rewards. He also said that everyone should prepare for the real raid that was to follow. However, everything he said seemed to go in one ear and out the other of Ju-yeon, who was concentrating on analyzing the new skill he had acquired. The skill was called Catalyst, and it amplified the effects of poison on enemies. When accumulated 3 times or more, it transformed the poison into critical poison. The activation cost was 800 mana and required 40 magic points. Ju-yeon thought that this ability might not be useful now, but it certainly would be in the future. Despite this, what really mattered to him was that he had managed to copy 2 powerful skills from Lee Hae-sung, Blood Phrenesis and Limit Breaking. He believed that this would be great for his plans. At that moment, Lee Hae-sung called the healer, who was Ju-yeon, and noticed that he had a very strange expression. He warned them that they would have more work later. A few days later, on the actual day of the big raid against Kanel, Ju-yeon was already exhausted. He opened his status window and saw that he had accumulated 4,000 SP. He'd achieved this by completing several daily missions, many of which yielded 500 SP each. He thought that the rank missions were appearing too often and that he could hardly rest, but he still felt lucky. Motivated, Ju-yeon stood up resolutely. Since the gods seemed to be on his side, he decided to invest. He used the 4,000 SP points to improve his subtraction. He was now able to store 3 copies of skills. Originally, he had only intended to use Radiant Authority and Change Resistance to strengthen himself, but now, with Lee Hae-sung's abilities, he knew that 3 copies wouldn't be enough to reach his true potential. He thought that, in the future, if he could combine Blood Phrenesis, Radiant Authority, Change Resistance, and 1 more attack skill, he might become even more powerful than Lee Hae-sung himself. For now, 3 copies was his limit, so he decided to copy Radiant Authority, Fireball, and Change Resistance. After that, he went to test his new skills and wanted to see how he would do with the Fireball. Soon after, a new video went viral on the internet. Psychopath, Ju-yeon's nickname, appeared again. In the video, he faced a snake-shaped boss and completely annihilated it. During the fight, the boss lunged at Ju-yeon, but he reacted by summoning a huge fireball and still managed to dodge the creature's attack. When the snake tried to hit the other users, he launched another fireball straight at its face, protecting everyone around him. He then ran, keeping the snake's aggro focused on him. Alone, he continued to attract the monster's attention until he finally defeated it, showing that Psychopath could beat the boss on its own. Meanwhile, at Muhammad's residence, his secretary informed him that the field inspection was already scheduled and that he had 1 hour and 24 minutes until the next task. But Muhammad was distracted by watching the video of Psychopath defeating the mountain snake. The secretary, noticing his interest, asked him if he was really that interested in Psychopath. Muhammad confirmed that he was. After all, it was to that boy that he had given his most precious ring. The secretary commented that he seemed very convinced that this person was Ju Yan, and Muhammad said that this was fascinating. It hadn't been that long since he had given him the elemental ring, and that ring wasn't even supposed to grant effects of endurance or agility. Yet Ju Yan had dodged all the snake's attacks single-handedly and killed it, as if it were someone who had mastered combat long ago. Muhammad then asked what the current situation was with the Rider Guild, and the secretary replied that, as he had imagined, there were many reports pointing to movements near special camps. Muhammad asked her to keep an eye on both Psychopath and Rider, because with so much attention, they could end up attracting trouble. He didn't want them to create a mess for his friend Psychopath. Meanwhile, someone else was also analyzing Ju Yan's video, and yes, she was interested in him. Ju Yan wondered if people had gone crazy posting a video about him. After all, he was the one who did all the work, and now they were making money off his name. He wondered where his image rights were. However, not a single frame showed his face directly. He concluded that it would be better if he uploaded it himself. He thought he should check his own channel at least once. He imagined the title, "A Beginner Level 10 Wizard Defeats a Boss Single-Handedly." If he posted that video, he could become completely rich. He began to think seriously about making a verification video, but at that moment, his daily mission still had to be completed. He needed to collect 10 special field essences, defeat 20 special field monsters, and survive for 60 minutes inside it. The reward was a quest buff and a random item from a box. Ju Yan mentally remarked that, until recently, he had only received E or F rank missions, but now he had a B rank mission. If he had checked this earlier, he wouldn't have needed to be there at night, but he had spent the whole afternoon sleeping, tired after killing the snake. He told himself that it would be ideal to complete the mission before midnight. It was then that he found a small sphere made of mana. When he collected it, he saw that it was a special field essence. Now there were 9 to go. He understood that he would have to search the entire huge field for 9 more of these essences, which made him realize how difficult this mission was. He thought it was no wonder it was B rank, but he also wondered why he had been given such a difficult mission. At that moment, one of those monstrous eagles attacked him directly. However, as he was much more agile, he managed to dodge it. The eagle ended up driving its head straight into a tree. Ju Yan was startled and realized that he had dodged out of pure reflex. He wondered how his body had moved so fast, even faster than his own thoughts. He decided to finish off that eagle and created an explosion so strong that it could be seen even from the horizon. Some awakened people who were in Kainel noticed the explosion and began to comment on it. They said that there were other users there and that the most advanced group was to the north. This group intended to defeat Kainel before anyone else. As they didn't want to return empty-handed, they organized an extremely secretive raid. In order to leave no trace of the raid, they said they would kill all the other users they found. Later, Ju Yan continued to complete his mission of defeating the 20 monsters in the special field. He had finally achieved this goal. He still needed to collect the last of the 10 essences. He had already collected 9. As he neared the end, he heard a strange noise in the distance. It was then that he spotted a group facing the boss Kainel. He was confused, as his raid wasn't scheduled until the next morning. He couldn't understand why there were already people there now. Ju Yan then realized that the group facing Kainel was quite large. Surprised by the situation, he began to wonder what he should do. There was clearly a raid trying to steal the boss. Given the situation, it was too late to call for reinforcements. But as he stopped to think about it, he remembered that he had a tutorial mission that involved conquering the special field and defeating Kainel. Only now did he realize that the mission didn't specify that he had to help in the fight. Would it be enough just to deal the final blow to the boss to complete it? Meanwhile, the opposing group was managing to inflict real damage on Kainel, even piercing his wings. Finally, the monster fell to the ground, but was clearly even more furious. Ju Yan, who was only watching from a distance, already had a sense of the confusion that that was coming. He sat still and waited. The system then notified him that Kanel's life had dropped to less than 50%. Since he could no longer fly, one of his wings became corrupted, and all his attacks gained the effect of judgment. This was the start of the third phase. Kanel became extremely physically powerful and began to throw all the enemies away. Juyan complained that the dust in front of him was too much and he could barely see. But then, amidst the confusion, he saw the last special field essence. If he could get it, he would complete his daily mission. However, at that very moment, Kanel launched an attack so powerful that it threw several users into the air, and they ended up falling exactly next to Juyan. He wondered why they were all falling down right there. When the group got up, they asked who he was. Someone said he was just a lost guy, but another said he was wearing one of the raid's masks. The group quickly mistook him for another mage wearing an identical outfit. They told him to put on the mask and go back to the front line. Juyan, even though he didn't fully understand the situation, joined in their game, as his goal was to be able to deal the final blow to the boss. He thought it was great to be mistaken for someone else and figured that, as long as he wasn't found out, everything was fine. He had no idea who the real wizard was, but he mentally thanked himself for it. So he managed to get the last essence, completing his daily mission. He received a random rank item and a quest buff. Later, the raid leader was fighting Kanel directly when an immense blue fireball appeared and approached with such force that he was forced to retreat. He wondered where those fireballs were coming from, as no one in the group had ever used magic like that before. Several users began to complain, saying that it was getting in the way too much. Juyan realized that this was bad because it drew attention to him. The buff he had received from the mission increased all his statuses by 5 for 24 hours, gave him 10% more experience, 300 extra mana points, and 10 more mana regeneration. Because of this, Juyan's power had risen more than it needed to, and he knew that if he didn't use his skills, the group might suspect that something was wrong. He thought that, if it hadn't been for the chaos of the battle, he would probably have been discovered by now. But when he was almost spotted, instead of panicking, he enjoyed the situation. He thought he might even be able to get several rewards if he carried on like this. Then the system announced a new change. Kanel had lost more than 10% of his life during his third form, so he activated a new ability. He summoned the island's monsters through a special order of rank E. All the summoned monsters received a subjugation strengthening buff, making the fight even more chaotic. Then all the monsters began to look directly at Kanel and advance towards him. Some people noticed that a raid was taking place, but they said that this raid was not scheduled for that night. The raid leader, however, didn't want anyone watching and, of course, eliminated all the users on the way. He ordered the raid to kill everyone they saw, and Juyan realized that he had gotten himself into an extremely dangerous place. It was practically a massacre. Those guys were complete maniacs. The ones who were trying to protect the innocent were Lee Hye-sung, Kim Hye-ji, and her group. Juyan thought that now he was really screwed, and wondered how he would explain that he wasn't on the side of the enemies. The raid leader said that the real raid had finally arrived and teased them, asking if they weren't late for the party. He even accused Lee Hye-sung of killing the innocent. Lee Hye-sung, indignant, replied that this was unbelievable and that he deserved death, so he set off to attack the group of maniacs. Juyan didn't know what to do and wondered if he should try to go to the other side without them noticing. But at that moment, Kanel started attacking with all his monsters at once. Everything was in chaos. The battlefield was about to become a massacre. Juyan thought that, in order to fix everything, they needed to defeat Kanel as quickly as possible. The fighting between the groups was spreading the damage everywhere, and this way Kanel wouldn't fall. There had to be a better way. It was then that he saw Lee Hye-sung acting together with Kim Hye-ji, but an assassin appeared behind her. Before she could be hit, she was saved by a fireball thrown by Juyan himself. Everyone wondered who that hooded magician was who had saved her. They said that he had attacked someone on his own side to protect her, and Kim Hye-ji's brother began to suspect that it might be Juyan. Juyan thought she needed to hold on just a little longer. Several minutes passed. He just needed midnight to arrive. When the time finally struck, he copied the skill and got Blood Frenzy. Using a fireball, he annihilated everything in front of him, defeating 20 monsters at once and gaining another 2% skill effect. Lee Hye-sung was a little annoyed with him, but joined in the fight to defeat the monsters. Juyan was defeating so many enemies that his additional skill effect was already over 10%. He was getting more and more powerful. With the accumulations of blood phrenesis, he launched an extremely powerful fireball right at Kanel's face. Everyone wondered if he had finished off the boss, but of course not. Kanel awoke in his final phase. With his spear, he hit the ground with such force that everyone around felt the impact of the overwhelming power. Juyan knew that if he didn't fight, he would die. It was at that that moment that Kim Hee-ji's brother appeared to protect him with his shield. His mask was cracking, revealing his face, and he told Ju-yeon that he now owed him one. After the huge explosion, Kanel was still standing as if he hadn't suffered any damage. But Ju-yeon, saved thanks to the shield, summoned an ability so powerful and so intense that it lit up the skies like a second sun. He directed the skill directly at Kanel, who was hit hard. When everyone looked, Kanel was dead, dropping all his items. Lee Hae-sung seized the opportunity and went all out on the leader of the criminal raid. Lee Hae-sung said that if Ju-yeon didn't want to die, he had to get out of there immediately. The criminal insisted that everyone knew that the MVP was him and not the group's magician. Only now Ju-yeon was without his mask, and his main mission had been completed. He would be teleported out of the instance in 10 seconds. The first thing he did was run over to the items and shout for everyone to see that it was he who had defeated Kanel. The criminal was in shock, thinking that this bastard was the real Psycho-Pays. Ju-yeon took the item and thanked everyone for the raid, saying that they had all done a great job. When they advanced against him, Ju-yeon teleported out of the special field. Lee Hae-sung said that that idiot had tricked them all, and the criminal added that both he and Lee Hae-sung had just been tricked by that bastard. He could hardly believe that his item had been stolen by Ju-yeon. Ju-yeon, for his part, wondered where he was now. He was floating as if on another plane and began to receive various notifications from the system. The main mission had been completed, and he had gained 10,000 experience, 1,000 SP, a ticket to increase the level of some subtract, and a random skill from a skill master. He also completed the tutorial mission, earning another 4,000 SP and unlocking a fourth subtrace. In addition, he absorbed Kanel's soul, increasing all his stats by 1 point and acquiring his rank skill Descent. Even Ju-yeon was startled by so many notifications. Then someone appeared and wiped them all away. It was like a strange fairy in that environment, and it was actually a little fairy. She introduced herself as Ego, his tutorial guide. She said that now he had completed the main mission of the tutorial. She was there to take him to the next one. Ju-yeon was confused, as he had never heard of a tutorial guide before. He hadn't even seen anything like it online. He thought that maybe it was something unique to his trait, which was X-ranked. Ego asked if he wanted to get the rewards first, and Ju-yeon said, yes, please. The first reward was the ticket for the subtrace upgrade. He would receive a class upgrade and be able to add more detail to the unique trait. In addition, he could choose one of his skills to evolve as a subtrace. He thought it over and concluded that it would be smarter to increase his passive income to gain even more SP in the long run. However, he was also very weak at the moment. If his skills hadn't been reset at midnight, he would probably have died in that raid and had no way of defeating Kanel. That's why he decided to increase the level of the skill copy ability. Now he could retrieve 2 copies a day, one at midnight and one at noon. What's more, every time he copied a skill, there was a chance that its level would also increase. If he was lucky, he could get up to 8 copies a day. Ego asked him if he wanted the other rewards, and he said yes. The random item in the C rank box was a flaming sword, which granted C attack, +7 strength, +3 magic, and a 7% bonus to the power infusion of fire skills. He wondered why he always ended up getting things related to fire. The next reward wasn't so much an item as a subtraction. Now he had the Blue Awakening, which added a new random option to the copied skills. Ju-yeon thought that wasn't bad at all, but what he was most curious to see was what he had dropped from Kanel. Kanel's Cursed Necklace, an SS rank item. The necklace gave +33 magic, +333 mana, a 13% mana regeneration, or 10% mana cost, 13% increased skill damage, and, when life was below 20%, increased mana regeneration by 200%, and granted another +33 magic. In addition, when equipping the item, you gained +5 to all statuses. Ju-yeon was impressed. He said that the item was completely insane, and thought that if the item was that good, Kanel's ability must be even more absurd. Ju-yeon had obtained the skill rank Descent. When his life dropped below 10%, the fallen angel Kanel himself would appear, increasing his status by 50% of the total magic. All his attacks would now have the corruption passive, and after the activation of Descent, both HP and mana would be completely restored. The duration of the skill was 10 minutes, with a recharge time of 30 days. He thought Kanel was really brilliant. That was probably the last skill he tried to use in combat. If Ju-yeon hadn't finished him off with the Blood Frenzy, he would hardly have been able to kill him. With that 30-day recharge time, it was almost as if he had a second life, a free revive every month. He now had over 20,000 SP. Using 15,000, he evolved his skill copy ability once again. From now on, he could accumulate up to 3 copies that would restart at midnight and noon. In addition, he gained the chance to get an extra copy attempt, just like in the last evolution. He also evolved all his subtractions. Efficiency, which was now at level 2, reduced the mana cost of all copied skills by 20%. Ju Yan said he would keep investing in efficiency to maximize his gains. Ego was proud of him. He then upgraded his imbuition, with a view to becoming even more powerful in the long term, and increased the difficulty and frequency of daily missions, in order to have continuous growth. Ego said he was a real hero, even looking like a legendary guild leader. After all that, Ju Yan was tired and asked if that was all. But Ego said no, that was just the rewards part. The real tutorial was just beginning. She asked if he remembered the last line of the main mission, where it said that he had to do all that for the survival of humanity and the Earth. Ju Yan asked what exactly that meant, and Ego explained that his world was about to be destroyed. Soon it would be invaded by monsters from another dimension. The next morning, the news was that Canal Island had naturally disappeared, as if the raid had been a complete success. The civilians could finally see the blue sky once again. However, even though the floating island had disappeared, spatial distortions began to appear. There was a possibility that some hunting grounds had been modified as a result. Later, Lee Hai-sung appeared in an interview, saying that they had faced some difficulties during the raid, especially because of another extremely aggressive group. Nevertheless, the raid against Canal was considered a success. Unfortunately, they didn't manage to capture the unidentified individuals who disappeared after the fight was over. The reporters asked about the rewards the boss had dropped. Lee Hai-sung replied that, first of all, they had confirmed that the statuses of everyone present had increased. When asked if there were no boss items, Lee Hai-sung was clearly annoyed, turned his face away and didn't answer. He had been robbed. Kim Hyeji was at home watching the news, and his brother commented that if that guy was caught by Lee Hai-sung, he'd be dead. At that moment, Kim Hyeji was calling Ju Yeon, but he wasn't answering. It seemed that the call was unavailable. Her brother asked her if she would keep insisting and if she was wrong. She replied that no one knew for sure, but said that that cloak was definitely a mage's equipment and that the wearer's main ability had been a fireball. That changed everything. Whoever had stolen Kanel's item could only be psychopath. Suddenly, she celebrated because Ju Yan had finally answered. Without beating about the bush, she got straight to the point and asked if the magician who had helped with the raid the day before was him. Ju Yan, surprised, said he didn't know what she was talking about and claimed he hadn't been there. But Kim Hyeji insisted, saying that the mage's equipment looked exactly like his and that he had disappeared without explanation. Juyeon nervously continued to deny it. He said that he hadn't really taken part in the raid and apologized, saying that he was in the shower at the moment and couldn't talk much. He promised to call back later. He went on to say that he hoped she would stop calling and wondered what kind of person calls every minute. He was extremely stressed, still processing everything he had heard from Ego. In the previous conversation, Ego had explained that his world would soon be destroyed, but asked him not to worry. He said that he possessed a special power, the Master of Abilities, an authority capable of altering reality itself. It was a power that only a deity possessed. According to Ego, his power had been blessed directly by a god. Juyeon wondered why he had such power. He wondered if he was some kind of demigod or something and thought that, if he was, serving in the army had been for nothing. Ego said he knew he was confused, but asked him not to think too much about it. He explained that everything he had done so far as a hero was reason enough, and that this power was a reward for all the missions completed. Now, one last choice lay before him. The power he possessed was not yet the true potential of the God Shard. A hero carries the burdens of saving the world, but he also carries power. This power could remain dormant or flourish, depending on his choice. Ego stated that he could use this power to survive or to bear the weight of the world and save everyone. He said that salvation was not necessarily the function of a hero, but just one of the decisions he would have to make. Juyeon answered sincerely, saying that he was hearing about saving the world, when not long ago he worked in a convenience store. He gave up thinking about it for now and decided he would eat after his shower. Meanwhile, Kim Hyeji was celebrating because he had completed his analysis mind map to find out if Juyeon really was that person. According to her brilliant intuition and brilliant analysis, Juyeon was definitely the psychopath, but she admitted that she had no concrete evidence and had never met the psychopath in person. Her brother asked why she was so obsessed with this guy. Kim Hyeji replied that that special camp was so dangerous that even someone like Han S could have died there. She said that if she was going to risk her life, then she would do her best to save the world, and for that they needed someone as exceptional as psychopath in their group. Her brother replied that if she wanted to do her best, then she should stop doing irresponsible things all the time. But even so, Kim Hyeji decided to continue with her analysis, using all the information available to her. She said that after causing all that chaos on the floating island and disappearing without a trace, it was obvious that psychopath hated being exposed. Still, all things considered, she believed that his level was probably no more than 40. Kim Hyeji started looking for a D-rank camp with fewer people. As Ju-yeon was avoiding the usual patrol routes, she knew he wouldn't be going to any of the more common camps. She commented to her brother that he seemed to be short of money and didn't have a car, so it was likely that he was restricting himself to places accessible by public transport or that he could reach on foot. Shortly afterwards, Ju-yeon headed for a D-rank spider den located on the outskirts of the metropolitan area. Kim Hyeji's brother thought she was crazy, asking how she could have known that. But later, he had to swallow his words, because yes, they really did find Ju-yeon exactly where she had predicted. Ju-yeon tried to disguise it by saying that he was only there to sell cures, not to hunt. Kim Hyeji's brother was left in doubt, wondering if he was really there just for that. Kim Hyeji, on the other hand, said that he already knew the truth. She said that she understood why he was hiding it, but that he could trust her and tell her, because she already knew everything. Ju-yeon nervously replied that he was just an ordinary healer. He asked why she was doing this to him. Kim Hyeji insisted, asking if he was still going to continue with that lie. Her brother thought the situation was already looking like a police raid and made an offer. He said he would pay him 500 an hour if he joined the group. Ju-yeon tried to resist, but Kim Hyeji's brother assured him that he would pay his debt, so he sighed and accepted. Ju-yeon said that if they just paid him 500 an hour, he would go in, but warned him that he needed to use the restroom first. Kim Hyeji had been waiting for exactly that. Her brother recalled that she had noted this detail on the mind map she had made of him. Ju-yeon, for his part, thought that now he would always be remembered as the guy who needed to go to the bathroom first. Later, inside the spider cave, Kim Hyeji asked him to be honest. He asked directly if the mage who ran with Kanel's item, who saved her, and who is the same psychopath, was him. Ju-yeon became extremely nervous. Kim Hyeji said that if he really was that person, she wanted to return the favor. She also said that, after all, she was part of the hunter world and knew how to deal with information like this, so she would keep everything secret. Ju-yeon thought that, from the way she was saying it, it was as if she was already sure of everything. It seemed that he had been found out for good. There was no denying it. So he just asked her not to tell anyone else. Kim Hyeji commented that now it made sense. It really was him. No wonder his magic seemed so much more powerful than hers. Ju-yeon responded by saying that it wasn't just the equipment that was good, but that he couldn't reveal either his class or his unique trait. Kim Hyeji said she understood, but was curious. If Sima's main class was magician, she wanted to know which skill book he used to learn all that. Meanwhile, Kim Hyeji's brother approached and reminded everyone that they were still in a D-rank camp. Suan, who was being paid for this, said he would clear the way and drew his flaming sword, which increased his magic by 3 points. Kim Hyeji asked if he was a magical swordsman, but Ju-yeon said not exactly. He was only using the sword because he didn't have a staff, and he thought that was the best option, since the weapon also increased his magic. He then prepared to start work and was excited to put his new skills to the test. When Kim Hyeji asked if he would use ice instead of fire, Ju-yeon thought that, as a master of skills, he could mix a wide variety of powers. He used an ice spear combined with poison, clearing the path with ease. He poisoned a monster with a sword embedded with ice, and when more spiders approached, he used the Lizard King's catalyst. This caused the creatures not only to die, but also to rot completely. He concluded that the poison, amplified by the catalyst, had proved very strong. He also found the ice magic very useful. He thought that if he were seen using a fireball, he might attract unwanted attention. That's why he preferred that combination. Kim Hyeji then asked if he wasn't, after all, a fire mage. Ju-yeon thought that, technically, the damage of his fireball was greater than the combo he had used, but it was still more strategic to act like that at the moment. Kim Hyeji began to wonder who he really was. Later, in a simple restaurant, Kim Hyeji was drinking and asked if he was 27, as they looked the same age. They toasted their mugs, and Ju-yeon thought he just wished he'd left straight after the hunt. But there he was. Then he remembered the moment he had defeated the boss of that field. He had absorbed the soul of the Spider Queen in one go and thought it was great. His skill combination test had been a success. However, Kim Hyeji had commented that they hadn't received the spider's soul because they hadn't contributed enough. Kim Hyeji complained that Ju-yeon, as well as being paid, had taken all the camp's contribution for himself and still had the soul of the monster all to himself. He said that because of this, he now owed them a lot more. Ju-yeon replied that he hadn't even thought about it, but said he would buy everyone a meal. He thought he would drink a lot just so he wouldn't remember any of it the next day. Just then, Kim Hyeji, already completely drunk, slammed her mug on the table and said she had a great offer for him. She explained that monsters were not the only danger within a camp. As had happened on Kainal Island, many people ended up getting involved in PvP battles, all out of interest. Kim Hyeji said that Ju-yeon was strong but could end up in danger. You never know when you might find yourself alone, surrounded by enemies. He said you had to remember that sometimes people could also be monsters. No one could fight the army of an entire entire guild. Hunting alone was a serious risk. She went on to say that if he wanted to go to higher level camps, he would need a tank, planning, and someone to deal with the fees for selling the items, which were always a headache. That's why he was offering a contract to take care of all this. He would just have to focus on hunting. She asked him what he thought of the idea. Ju-yeon asked if she really wanted to sign a contract with him, and Kim Hyeji said yes. She didn't see why not. Kim Hyeji explained that there weren't many good users in this market, let alone trustworthy people, but she knew he was powerful. He said that now they could share secrets. She commented that while monsters leave items when they die, people leave names. She couldn't reach the top on her own and wanted to put his name next to hers. She said she would rather die than remain weak. She went on to say that if he signed the contract, he would have free use of the office next to the most beautiful woman in the world, according to herself in this case. Kim Hyeji's brother, overhearing everything, thought it was too overbearing. Ju-yeon commented that she was actually really pretty, and an awkward silence formed for a few seconds. He then said that the offer was very good and that he couldn't refuse. Kim Hyeji replied that it was great, so all she had to do was sign the contract. Her brother, embarrassed, told her to sit down and eat. It was then explained that the scheduling of the camps would give priority to the requests of Part A, which in this case was Ju-yeon. Part B, Kim Hyeji, would take care of all Part A's needs outside of hunting and daily life. She handed him a card and told him to use it for anything. She said that she would take care of managing all the money he earned from hunting, and that if he needed anything, he could just talk to her. Ju-yeon thought that was more than a good explanation. It was just wonderful. He even got a place to stay, much better than before. Later that day, Ju-yeon reflected that that contract was really incredible. Hunting like that was much easier than when he was alone. Before, Ju-yeon had avoided Kim Hyeji for a reason, but now he had to admit to himself that she really was very pretty. Having someone like her, who volunteered to be his manager, made him extremely motivated. He thought that any man in his position would be envious of that situation. Later, he copied the Blood Frenzy skill, and to his surprise, it didn't stay at SS rank as he had expected, but evolved directly to X rank. He was amazed by this and thought that now he would never have to see Lee Hae-sung's face again. Excited by his new ability, he decided to try out his ice spear as well. It was at that moment that he remembered Kim Hyeji's words, saying that he really was very powerful. With this in mind, he began to analyze the probabilities and combinations of his abilities. Then, sometime later, he met up with Kim Hyeji again and told her to get ready, because they were going out into the countryside. This time, he would be carrying her for real. As he prepared, Ju-yeon realized that he was even beginning to relax. Life as a hunter no longer seemed as heavy as before. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss the next chapters. And if you want to support this project even more, consider becoming a member.